Ulithi Atoll is a collection of some 40 tiny islands in the Pacific Ocean. Although the islands surround one of the largest lagoons in the world, the atoll has a total landmass of only 1.7 square miles. The nearest large island is more than 100 miles away, across some of the deepest waters in the world. A small plane makes its way to the main island twice a week and brings food and news. But very little outside food finds its way to each of the 4 inhabited islands, and it's not enough to support the 1,000 people who live out here. This is John Rummel Jr. He's a local from Ulithi and plays an important role in the community, coordinating some of the logistics of life on a remote island.
There's maybe 15 I can count on this island that have jobs. The way that the family system is set up here is everything is shared, so the pressure is on these few individuals. Other than the logistics of bringing things all the way out here, when it gets here, it's really, really expensive. We can't afford it. There's not enough economic activity here to be able to depend on imported food. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality today.
There's another troubling reality. The reefs, which have supported the islanders for thousands of years, are changing, and no one knows exactly why or what to do about it.
We all know now that the reefs are not producing as much as they used to. There's certain type of fish that we don't see anymore. Not just fish, but turtles. We don't see hawksbills anymore. Everything's all different now, so it's hard to predict and it's hard to plan now resource management. So we're learning like everybody else. We're trying to adjust to all these changes.
For the last 3 years, a team of marine biologists and fisheries experts have traveled out to Ulithi to spend a few weeks counting fish, studying Ulithi's corals, and talking to locals to see if they can figure out what's happening.
Because once you lose sight from here, these are the two facing in the lagoon. Right. So
one issue is on everyone's mind. A single species of coral called cabbage coral is taking over the reefs.
Something has happened on some of the reefs to cause it to begin to grow quickly. Some sort of a phase shift, sometimes this can be called. Some conditions, ecological conditions, which have given this coral, let's say, its chance. And it has taken that chance, and it's growing very, very quickly.
I first saw the cabbage coral in Azore in 1999, and it was just a large enough colony, but not the way it looks today. Then I left. I didn't swim in these waters for over 10 years. Then I came back and it's all over. It's here in Falalap, and I noticed that the entire lagoon is covered with cabbage coral, especially the islands that has people.
It's not healthy on a reef in general to have only one kind of coral. That tends to reduce the fish populations and the diversity of the fish.
This is a problem for people like Henry Babbage, a spear fisherman who says he fishes every day on the reef.
When I was young, up to now, I know there is a big change. I don't see anymore that kind of fish which I usually see around here, that size of the fish. I only buy this steel, then everything here, I carve the wood, make the trigger. I don't have the right tools, so I use only a file and a hacksaw.
Babbage says he's not sure what caused the change, but he suspects the loss of traditional fishing practices that may have sustained the balance between fish and people.
Before we have a season for type of fishing that we do in 1 year. We have a certain time for net fishing, certain time for torch fishing, bottom fishing, trolling. But now we don't have, this all season is open. And when you shoot it?
There used to be all of these different rules and regulations about fishing different types of fish at different time of the year. Regulations about what type of bait you use in certain areas. This is the kind of practice that I felt has been kind of neglected for some time. And may be related to all of this decline in the reef health and the fish population. So I have a personal goal to try to use scientific data science that we're learning today, from professional sources, to help revive some of this.
Reviving traditional fishing management is proving difficult.
Now snapping.
So much has been forgotten, and reefs don't tend to rebound quickly. In fact, some of the current problems date all the way back to World War II.
Ulithi Atoll was a very important atoll during World War II, and the Naval Third Fleet staged the great battles of Iwo Jima and other really important battles out of that atoll with over 700 ships, aircraft carriers to battleships to supply ships, and over 8,000 soldiers and officers and military personnel occupying that atoll. So it was a tremendous operation, and it had a huge ecological impact.
They have 4 of them in a straight line.
The scientists are training locals to measure the changes on their reefs.
The 4 in a straight line was to see the edge of the Montipora.
Okay.
And the edge is way beyond. You know that the
They're tracking the
Montipora is
cabbage
already
coral's
here.
growth and measuring the size and gender of some of the fish
1
caught.
year. So
So it doesn't matter.
we know that the progress is crazy.
Yeah.
Armed with this data, the locals will be able to tell if they're overfishing certain fish, like parrotfish, that are important to the reef's health. Last year, community leaders on one of the islands decided to close part of the reef and limit certain types of fishing. And the momentum seems to be growing.
So by measuring the fish that you catch, you can easily understand what's happening with the fish. If you start to catch fish that are mostly female, mostly having eggs, maybe you shouldn't catch them at that time of year.
My approach has been, we're here to talk about this resource that we need to replenish, this resource that we need to protect, and it's our reefs that connect us. And I'm using this as much as possible to touch base on other issues, like, we need to organize ourselves. Each island needs to come up with their own plan, and by identifying each unique situation, how can we as a whole mesh this? How can we fix our problem? How can we solve our common issues? And we're going to start off with the reef.
There are no easy fixes. Not only is Ulithi incredibly vulnerable to sea level rise, but the changes in the reef may also be speeding up the island's erosion. Ulithi depends on its strong reefs to break the waves, but the cabbage coral that's taking over is very brittle. If the reefs lose their strength, or can't keep up with rising sea levels, then the islands may wash away.
Right now, I think the belief is that these islands will not be usable, even if it's still above water. There will be some point when we're going to need to move, and I think that realization is real now when you see all of this erosion, when you see 15 layers of coconut trees falling off of your front yard in the past 6 years. That is so real, and it's happening on all of the islands here. And so now there's real dialogues and there's real proposals and requests to our local government and local Congress, about money for buying property for relocation. It's happening, and so we can't deny that it's happening. So we just have to plan ahead. Yeah.